current events, aka Hebrew news. My name is Shamar, and to my left,
Shahad Amath.
Khan. And tonight, we're going to be talking about some of the current things or some of the things that have been going on within the world as of recently. As the scriptures say, not being ignorant of anything, small or great. Of course, we always encourage doing your own research, digging further into these sources, and being consistent with how these stories develop. But these are always interesting things for our people to be abreast of. Can you take us over to the PowerPoint? So it says, the House passes the Crown Act, a bill banning discrimination on race-based hairdos, right? So it says the House passed a bill Friday that would ban race-based hair discrimination at work, federal programs, and public accommodations. The Crown Act, which stands for Creating a Respectful and Open World for Natural Hair Act, passed along party lines with the vote of 235 to 189. So it's crazy that first and foremost, after all this time, right, everyone wants to talk about freedom. All of our people just swear by how much change has come about, how different the world is, how progressive everyone's being.
We're moving in the right direction, right?
Right, it's all of that. And then ultimately, we still have to have bills to be able to be passed just so that they can say, okay, they can't legally discriminate against you. And there's not even a whole bunch of guarantee. If it has to get put in law, how is this going to be enforced? How is this going to be upheld? How is this going to be, actually addressed, or, you know what I mean? How are you going to hold anyone accountable to this?
And it's crazy. The bill is just so we can be as we naturally are.
It says, hair discrimination is rooted in systematic racism and its purpose to preserve white spaces. The NAACP says, policies that prohibit natural hairstyles like afros, braids, bantu knots, and locks have been used to justify the removal of black children from classrooms and black adults from their employment. So they're acknowledging like it's a part of systematic racism. The people are still in place, but now they can't say that it's for that reason, so they'll get you on something else. They'll say, oh, you did this, you were causing a disturbance, some other ambiguous term or saying.
It's a distraction.
Right, you're a distraction. It doesn't really matter, but it's like so many of our people find hope in these kinds of things. And the scriptures tell us we watch and wait for a nation that can't save us. Let's get that. Lamentations Chapter 4. And verse 17, I'll read it. It says, as for us, our eyes as yet failed for our vain help, and our watching, we have watched for a nation that could not save us. So many of our people are still, at this day and age, I do think that it's dying out a lot more, or maybe it's just the exposure has died out a lot more, but there are still so many people that believe you have to get involved in the system. You have to vote. You have to get out there and be proactive, and all this stuff is going to change. And it's like, dude, and mind you, what is this? It's 2022. We're what, 3 years into COVID? You saw in that first year of COVID, they passed a bill, an anti-Asian hate bill, that you can't discriminate and attack and all that stuff within like 6 months. We've been in this country for 400 years. COVID's been going for 3. Discrimination been since forever. And they're just now saying, okay, at bare minimum, we'll put it in writing.
Right.
Who's going to uphold it? How are they going to uphold it? Who do we hold accountable? How? But it is in writing. It says, a prior attempt, and this is the crazy part, like the dagger to the heart,
right,
where you scroll down. A prior attempt at taking hair discrimination complaints to court failed. So not only is this so long in the making, so far behind what it should have been, but it's also like 10 years old. They tried 10 years ago, in May 2010. That was actually 12 years ago. Chastity C. Jones, who was hired to work as a customer service rep with Catastrophe Management Solutions in Alabama, lost her job offer after she refused an HR request for Jones to cut her dreadlocks. So she was actively discriminated against. And this is just one of the few stories that actually make the news or someone reports on. They told her, you know what, we're no longer going to offer you the position because you won't cut your dreads. So that was back in 2010. Very directly discrimination. She takes it to court, says a lawsuit filed by the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission against CMs ultimately failed. So way back in 2010, she was actively discriminated against very clearly, right? Should be an open and shut case. She took it to court and lost. So that's 12 years ago. And now they're saying, okay, maybe this isn't the most, maybe we could do that. And it's crazy that, you know, all these things are happening at the same time, that there's so much other stuff that's going on in the world right now, right? For example, stuff like this. Chatham County parent says son target of mock slave auction on school grounds.
Let's go to the PowerPoint.
It says a Chatham County family is seeking legal action, claiming their son's middle school classmates made him the target of a mock slave auction on school grounds. So imagine that, right? Wow. This is, let me see. North Carolina. So in North Carolina, you gotta have, they're in a classroom, right? Middle school, mind you. In a classroom, they're like, oh, you know, they're teaching the kids about slavery as if they haven't already learned so much behind closed doors at home, like they don't already know.
They want to make it more interactive.
Right. They're like, oh, you know what we should do? Let's hold an auction.
Right.
And who should be the slave? The one black student in the class. It'd be one black student in the class. They're like, who should be the slave?
Let's see.
Jerome, why don't you come on up? No, it's part of the exercise. We're learning. It says the superintendent responded with a letter to the entire Chatham County Schools community saying racist behavior has no place in his school district. So that was a very strongly worded letter.
That'll get it out of there for sure.
Right, that'll do it. Ashley Palmer first posted to Facebook about the incident last week after she said her son, a 14-year-old 8th grader on the school's basketball team. Baseball team. I was like, why did they put that in there? Salakia. Baseball team told her about what happened on the field during practice. Palmer said some of the white players carried out a mock slave auction that one of her son's friends went for $350, and another student was the slave master because he knew how to handle them.
Get out.
Palmer wrote that her son delayed telling her about it, writing, this type of stuff seems to be the norm so much that he didn't think it was worth sharing.
Sheesh.
So imagine that, right? Everyone's, and that's why like so many of the laws that get passed are really irrelevant, because when you're talking about, and that's why even the Most High, right? You see in the scriptures, there were instances where the Most High said, look, go in here and kill everybody. The men, the women, and the children. And it's like, oh my God, why the children? What did they do? Right. They've already been taught. The children, boys become men, girls become women. They grow up. They carry on those ideals and those legacies. And these kids is what, 14 years old, right? They're on the tail end of like being their childhood. They're more so now teenagers. Yeah. But you see that this is instilled in them. And he said it happens so often, it's like not even a point of talking about it anymore. It's constant. It's always going on to the point where he's like, well, what is there really to talk about?
Right.
That's school.
It's another day.
It says, Palmer, who is seeking legal action for what she referred to as an assault and continuous harassment of her son, said administrators have since contacted her expressing concern for families on the other side of the incident who have reported they are now being targeted. So now because they spoke up, obviously now everyone has a problem. You're going to get my kids caught up. You're going to have this happen. You're going to have that happen. So now they're getting, obviously they're being targeted. They don't really go into what that means, but you've seen plenty of instances of like them trucks sitting out front. Who knows what else is going on, who's watching, when, or if there's active attacks. But these ideals they're deeply embedded in the beast. It's not really going to be a washing.
Including making yourself the victim.
So, while all that's going on, because remember, we started off with how our hair can't be discriminated against. Right. Then you immediately go to a story of, teenagers at school holding mock auctions and playing slaves with the black kids. And then right after that, why? Because the crazy part about it is, what I've seen shared the most, or what I've seen so often, was the Crown Act, right? Everyone's excited. Everyone feels like that's really a win. That's usually what happens every time our people get a bone.
Right.
Every time we get a bone, it seems like stuff's so different. Things are gonna change. The world is changing. Yeah, like the world is changing.
This is what we needed.
And then back to back, you see more and more truth and more reality and more that nothing you hear is going to change. It'll just fall apart at some point, right? So while everyone's celebrating the natural hair, they slid this in. An ex-officer cleared in shooting during Breonna Taylor raid, right? So everyone who knows the story about Breonna Taylor, sister was in her apartment, right? Police bust in. I think it was a no-knock warrant, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So they don't even know that they're police. They say, there's so much speculation. If I'm not mistaken, I think they said that her boyfriend shot, and then they started shooting. Some sources say he didn't shoot, or
right.
They killed her in her house with a no-knock warrant, right? So the officer involved has now been cleared. Former Louisville police officer Brett Hankinson Center awaits the jury's verdict in a wanton endangerment trial. So that was another thing. They didn't even charge him with murder, first-degree murder, manslaughter. I think wanton endangerment is like.
He was endangering neighbors.
Yeah, something. I think that's exactly what it was. It was like you recklessly fired your weapon.
So it has nothing to do with the actual victim.
They're pretty much saying you fired your weapon, it could have gone through a wall and hit someone else.
Right.
But the fact that she's gone, he's not even being tried for that ultimately. That's not even the crime that's up against him. A former Kentucky police officer was found not guilty on Thursday on charges he endangered neighbors the night he fired into Breonna Taylor's apartment during a botched drug raid that resulted in Taylor's death. The panel of 8 men and 4 women delivered its verdict for Brent Hankinson about 3 hours after it took the case, following closing arguments from prosecution and defense attorneys. Salakia. None of the officers involved in the March 13, 2020 raid were charged with Taylor's death, and Hankinson did not fire any of the bullets that killed the 26-year-old black woman. His acquittal likely closes the door on the possibility of state criminal charges against any of the officers involved in the raid. So he's ultimately the scapegoat. They were like, look, let's not put the officer who did it out there. Let's not sacrifice him, because then gives people a name and a face. You know how far people will go with that. Hey, rookie, you got the least years on the force. You only got 2 years. He got 10. We need you to bite this bullet. We're not even going to charge you with nothing serious. Give you some BS, man, like wanton endangerment. What is that? Exactly. You'll be back on the force in no time. Take this for the team, and you're official, rookie. Okay. And then they're like, you'll get acquitted. But if we can shut it down before it gains any traction, nobody's gonna get charged. He's not even being charged with the actual death. He just they say his bullets didn't even do the killing. That's what they're saying.
You take over reading, yeah.
Yeah, So that was the main thing, right? Is like his acquittal likely closes the door possibility of them charging any of the other officers. Said Hankinson did not appear outside the courtroom after the verdict was read, but his attorney, Stuart Matthews, said he and Hankinson were thrilled. Asked what might have swayed the jury, Matthews replied, I think it was absolutely the fact that he was doing his job as a police officer. So it's all the standard, it's his duty, it's this, it's that, and then ultimately, big picture is nobody's going to be held accountable. Prosecutors stressed in opening statements that the case wasn't about Taylor's death or the police decisions that led to that raid. So it was a botched drug raid. I didn't even know the purpose of the raid, but I sure didn't read about them taking away pounds of anything.
No.
So you went in there, and they're like, we're not going to talk about the fact that it's a botched raid. If the police, they have all this money, all these resources, all this surveillance, and it is literally your job, your whole duty to find someone, to find a criminal, right? And you have all these resources at your disposal. Somehow, they say, all right, there's drugs here. They go in, they end up killing Brianna Taylor. And I don't even read, because I know I know they didn't find any drugs, because if they had, that would be the headline.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Of every article.
Yeah, someone died, but we got the drugs.
Right, exactly. That would be if they had just that, because they tried to drag the boyfriend that was in the house through the mud, like,
right.
Oh, he was an ex-convict.
Right.
He was this, he was
that.
that.
Yeah, absolutely nothing to do with it at all.
Nothing. So it's like, imagine if they would have found drugs, we'd know about it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So they went in. And they're like, look, let's make this clear so that y'all are not trying to ask questions that we don't want out there. This is not about her death, and it's not about the raid. You're literally just taking one officer who's pretty much going to represent the entire police force. We're going to tell you about his duty and how important he is, give him a minor crime so that even if he does get charged, he's not going to go away forever, if at all, but ultimately, he's going to get off. That was the whole case. And now she's gone because of this. It says, Lamentations 4:18, they hunt our steps that we cannot go in our streets. Our end is near, our days are fulfilled, for our end is come. It's crazy because she wasn't even in the street. She was at her own home. It's like, man, if a Jake don't feel safe nowhere, a lot of times we like to be at the crib. That's at least the one place that you do feel a little bit more relieved, and that's not even the reality anymore. That's not the case. It says, Taylor had been settling down for bed when officers arrived at her door. She was shot multiple times in her hallway and died at the scenes. Protesters filled the streets for months after Kentucky Attorney General David Cameron's office declined to seek charges against any of the officers in connection to Taylor's death. Taylor's name and those of George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery, black men who died in encounters with police and white pursuers, become rallying cries for racial justice during nationwide protests in 2020. So it's like, man, that the Attorney General is not even, it wasn't even considered. Like, from start to finish, this honestly probably was something that gained more traction than what they were anticipating.
For sure.
It seemed like, look, we're not, like, they were, no part of that was there ever any kind of risk to the officers or to, anyone that had partook of that killing for there to be any kind of accountability. That was never an option. But,
No. I don't have anything.
But people will tell you it's getting better because we can wear dreads.
Right.
So.
Yeah, what's the title? So this one is a father who killed 3 daughters in church, overstayed visa to stay in the U.S. New details on AR-style gun released. ICE says it wasn't notified after David Moore was released from jail after arrest for assaulting a CHP officer. This is in Sacramento, California. The gunman who killed 3 daughters, a visitation chaperone who was supervising his visit with the children and himself in a Northern California church this week, was in the United States illegally, immigration officials said Friday. David Moore, 39, overstayed his visa after entering California from his native Mexico on December 17, 2018. on a non-immigrant visitor visa, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement spokesperson Alethea Smock told the Associated Press. She didn't say whether his visa expired, but he overstayed his visa. ICE asked to be notified when he was released from jail last week after he was arrested in Merced County for assaulting a California Highway Patrol officer.
So imagine that, right? So this guy kills his own 3 daughters. It said Samantha, so these are their names, right? 10, 9, and 13. During a supervised visit before killing himself. It's like, man. The shootings at a church in Sacramento occurred during a weekly supervised visitation Mora had with his daughters. Police have revealed no motive, but the confirmation that he was in the country illegally provides a possible reason. Mora may have feared being deported and separated from his children. So one thing I want to say, there's 2 things, right? Let's go over to Matthew, chapter 24. 24:12, and it says, "And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold." When I hear about cases like this, I always just think like, man, where's the love? For him to have killed his own 3 daughters. And then on top of that, I can't help but be bothered by the, it's like certain news sites are very reliable as far as information-wise, but they always have the agenda. And I don't know, it stands out to me more than the actual article itself. When I read stuff like this, right? But police have revealed no motive, right? So they don't even know why he did this. He was obviously deceased by the time they had already realized what was happening. They didn't get a chance to ask him. No manifesto, no motive. But the confirmation that he was in the country illegally provides a possible reason. First off, they're trying to make that everything about the story. He's here illegally. He's illegal, illegal, illegal. You hear Trump, right? You saw the type of response that Trump used to get at his rallies when he would use illegal. These people are here illegally. What do you say? He used terrorists, but he'd be like, rapist, this, that. He'd throw around these terms, right? And everyone would just get riled up, like they was ready to leave the rally right then and there and flood into the streets. Yeah, they go find an illegal. And everything has been centered around Esau is really conditioning people to translate illegal to evil. Slavery was legal. You know how many things that are wicked are legal? Scriptures say he frameth mischief by law. So plenty of things are legal in Esau's system. But if you're illegal, you're in danger. And it's like, oh, look at what this illegal man did. Because when you read that headline, that's in the top. He was here illegally. That's all people are going to read. Most people don't even read down and actually get into the bottom of an article. They read maybe the headline and the caption under the picture. Oh, man, an illegal immigrant. Here, he killed 3 people. Man, those illegals are dangerous. Right. Then they're walking away with that mentality. And then every time you see that, oh, wait a minute, we can do anything. All we have to do is slap that title on it. Illegal. Oh. It's like
Now the crime isn't, his actual actions, but it's the fact that he isn't here the way that the government wants him to be here, if at all.
Because he was illegal. Right. My God. Couldn't have been a greater crime against humanity. It says, law enforcement go on to say that 17 casings were found at the scene, indicating that 17 shots were fired. So, and then this is another thing. He may have feared being deported and separated from his children. I obviously can't speak for him. And obviously they don't, at least they say that there is no motive, there's no reason. But it's like, man, separated from your children, if you found a way here before, I don't know. I can only speculate, and I won't speculate on those things. The weekly visitation was followed under terms of a 5-year restraining order obtained by Mora's ex-girlfriend, who was the mother of the girls. The order said that he had repeatedly threatened to kill her, scared their girls, and said he would kill himself. Okay, so clearly there was obviously an ongoing issue. In response to a court filing for the order, Mora said he had no guns. His ex-girlfriend said she was not aware of him having firearms. So, man. But while we're talking about that, right? Sheriff's deputy testifies that he attended 7 inking parties linked to a Compton group. So a couple months ago, this has kind of been ongoing, right? It's been a number of, especially with Compton PD and kind of carries over to LAPD, they're investigating all these gangs, right? And they keep clearing themselves and saying that, you know, they're discouraging gang behavior and discouraging gang paraphernalia. Not sure what that's supposed to look like. But that's that's the statement that's being put out, right? And then every time it seems like someone comes out and it was like, nah, I know exactly what they're talking about. No, there's gangs here. So it says a Los Angeles County Sheriff's deputy associated with the group of gang-like deputies with matching tattoos at Compton Station said he attended about 7 so-called inking parties since he had seen the image on a shirt over 10 years ago. So 10 years, right? Even though this has been in recent news, like really gaining traction, it's been ongoing for at least 10 years. He said he saw this image 10 years ago and was like, oh man, I want that. In a deposition this month, Deputy Jamie Juarez was ordered by county attorneys not to answer questions about whether he had the executioner's tattoo. So they're telling him, shut your mouth. Not, oh my goodness, this officer is clearly in a gang. We need to fire this guy and get him off the force while he has a license to kill. They're saying, look, man, don't say nothing.
Right.
Don't say nothing else. And it says, whether or not he had an executioner's tattoo, it's permanently on his skin. Surely this man could just be like, could just lift his shirt.
Right.
And everyone's like, oh, guilty. What more evidence do we need? And police clearly have, especially LAPD, Compton PD, they have gang units. Right. They know how to identify a gang member. And one of the key identifiers is tattoos, because you can't really, there's nothing really you could do. Once it's there, right? And most people don't go to the lengths, not being active, to have it removed. So they're like, look, we're not even going to let people lift your shirt or look around you, which is very obviously to be seen. Just don't say anything. We'll get you out of this. Just don't say anything. It says, which depicts a skull with a gun in a military-style helmet surrounded by flames. But he named a handful of deputies who, Juarez admitted in deposition, that a truck displaying a flag with the image belonged to him. It says he testified that he was involved in deciding who can get tattoos, and the majority of MPs involved in the conversation must agree. The last time he was involved in one of those discussions, he said 5 people were involved in the discussion. The line deputies, the deputies on patrol, they decide that they feel like a deputy who is a chief of duty, who conducts himself in a professional manner, who has served the public and the department with honor and respect. They conduct ethical policing. They're a leader. They respond to critical incidents. They mentor young deputies, Juarez said. It's the deputies they decide. So they try to make it seem like in order to be in the gang, you got to be an upright citizen.
Right. Not just citizen, you got to be an upright officer.
Like, man, dude, you already admitted that there's a gang. We see all the killings. We see the motive behind it. They call themselves the executioners. Right. You cannot tell me, you are not about to convince me, the tattoo is a skull military helmet with a rifle with flames around it, and you got to be an upright tax-paying citizen to get on the gang? Come on, man. It's like at this point, either come out and say it, or just like you shouldn't have even gone this far if that's how you was gonna say. If that's how you were gonna portray this, yeah, there's a gang, but we're just like the best. We're just the best of the best, the executioners. Don't that like protect and serve? Juarez did not immediately respond to a request for comment on Saturday. The sheriff's department declined to comment on the deposition testimony Saturday. He also declined again to answer questions first posed by the Times last April regarding his investigations into the Compton group. Man, it says the sheriff's department has long faced allegations that gang-like groups of deputies operate at multiple stations, policing commanders and glorifying aggressive police tactics. Sheriff Alex Villanueva played down the issue, saying problems associated with gangs are often the result of drunken deputies fighting, and challenging those who call them deputy gangs. So wait a minute. Wait a minute. I was like, wait a minute. Hold on. Wait a minute. Saying problems associated with gangs are often the result of drunken deputies fighting and challenging those who call them deputy gangs. So is gang wars happening in the police? They're like, it's usually just deputies get drunk together and they be like, man, y'all in a gang. No, we're not. Boop, boop, boop. It's gang wars happening in the LAPD. Man.
Wow.
LA is a hell of a place, bro.
It definitely is. That's crazy.
It's different. It's gangs in the police. And he's trying to make it seem like, oh no, it's not a big, they just fight amongst each other, like amongst the gangs. It's no big deal. It's just gang fights.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, the fights are over someone defending that they're not in a gang. That's what the gang fights are about.
That's what they're claiming they're about. But mind you, they're also saying that you have to be the best of the best of a cop to be able to join a gang.
Right.
You have to be a really good, like, you have to respond to calls great, be a great leader. I mean, come on, man.
To the point where you deny being a part of it?
It's like, what's the purpose? The tattoos were donated by 4 or 5 different artists to different people, he said. So it's also people that they have coming in to do the tattoos for free. That
free.
Right. I wonder how that works. They're donated. What tattoo artist that you worked all those years to build up your reputation to get your shop to be on call, and you're like, yeah, I'll give him a free tattoo, no strings attached. I'm not getting anything out of this.
Welcome to the workday. Every morning, Cintas is up early, helping our customers feel prepared for the day ahead.
Is that in the back, Ock? It says 2 of those deputies, I missed it. Well, long story short, I mean, that should be enough, right? Juarez identified a second group of deputies at Compton Station with another tattoo that is like a gladiator or an X-Man. He said he saw about 5 people, including Waldy, with this tattoo and accused the lieutenant of showing favoritism towards them. Alan Romero, Waldy's attorney, denied the favoritism allegations, saying the lieutenant did everything possible to treat everyone the same. So they got multiple gangs at multiple places. The gangs fight amongst each other, and they all trying to put on and get their stripes to say that they're the hardest gang in the police. We got this many bodies. We got that many bodies. We doing this. We doing that. Oh, okay, it's probably here then. We already got to that one. There we go. All right. So while there are gangs in the police, Lakewood residents call for help from the sheriff's department amid the recent crime. So you got high crime, crimes are picking up, crimes in LA, crimes in Lakewood, which is one of the nicer cities, right? You got crimes across LA County, and all these other cities are trying to call on the LAPD to be able to get assistance now. It says, with baseball bats and crowbars, vandals smashed up a car in the 4500 block of Lomita Avenue in Lakewood.
A neighbor told KTLA the homeowner was watching from the window as 6 brazen burglars tried to steal her car's catalytic converter. Then as the homeowner screamed at them to stop, they threatened her. Lakewood resident Brian Caron said the incident made him very, very angry.
That made me so angry. It says, I'm so angry.
They were going to kill that woman. It was that simple. Man. You saw the guy with the bat above his head, and he was right by her door. He was going to whack her on top of the head, Caron said. It is not the first time the neighborhood has been victim to crime. Neighbors tell KTLA that it's out of control in the area, including a flash mob that swarmed a Home Depot in November and stole merchandise. It's all over. It's all over the place. We've had this smash and grabs just locally right here at Home Depot. We've had a lot of stuff going on throughout the neighborhood, said Lakewood residents Gregory Slaughter.
Let me scoop this up just a little bit. Look, bam.
Surprisingly, the neighborhood is close to Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department's Lakewood station, but victims said the deputies don't always respond quickly. Imagine that.
Right. But see, here's the thing. You want to know why they're not responding quickly, even though they're close? Because there's a shortage, thanks to COVID.
Wow.
All these different things, right? Because that's the crazy part. Esau is shooting himself in the foot over and over and over again, and he's running out of foot. It was all these things, right? They implement all these things. They hope to get Jakes caught up. A lot of, at least from what I've seen, whether you're in the truth or not, a lot of people are refusing the jab, and a lot of people are not falling for it anymore, right? A lot of people are opposed to these things. So now these other cities are experiencing crime. They're experiencing all these different things, and all this COVID stuff that Esau has pushed is now working against him. They would hit us with the longest ad they got, 30. But it's crazy because, all right, so just off the title, right? The staff shortage is getting critical with nearly 800 vacancies. So 800 officers, mind you, I believe the statistic in LA is there's one officer for every 444 people?
Yeah.
Or is it 4? I want to say it's 700, but it's got a 7 in there.
I'm not sure.
I'm going to look this up real quick. For Los Angeles County, there are 24 officers for every 10,000 people. So let's see, you take 10,000, divide that by 24. Yeah, one officer for every 416 people.
Wow.
And now, and keep in mind, let's see, when was this? That was in May 7th, 2014. So that's outdated.
Man.
Way outdated. So with their having 800 vacancies and the population getting worse and worse in LA over the years, especially in the past 10, you've had an influx of people coming in, and now you have a lack of officers past the already huge lack that they had.
We might be up to 800 by now.
Oh yeah,
700-800 per officer.
As of, let me see what's the date on this article. This one says 401. But even then, 400 people to every officer. And now they're saying they have 800 vacancies on top of, because that's what it was when they had a full force.
Right.
They're 800 down from that full force. And they were already 1 to every 400 roughly, right? And now it's even more. Let's take us over to the PowerPoint.
Has created a short staffs and prolonged wait times on emergency calls. Eyewitness News reporter Carlos Granda has more on how the County Board of Supervisors responded.
Sheriff Alex Villanueva says the staff shortage at the LA County Sheriff's Department is getting critical. He says there are now 783 vacancies.
At some point, I ran out of people. We're at that point that we've ran out of people.
Villanueva blames the Board of Supervisors for a hiring freeze and says some patrol stations are at times operating with only 70% of personnel. He says response times are now at about 3 minutes, but expects it will eventually take longer.
It's going to change. That 3 is going to become 4. It's going to become 5. In the high desert, that might become, instead of 10 minutes, code 3, it might become 20.
The sheriff says because of this, crime is going up. Data shows the number of firearm arrests up to 1,522 last year. Part 1 crimes, which include robbery, murder, and assault, were also up last year after several years of decreases. The budget, however, has held steady with a slight increase. Supervisor Hilda Solis sent out a statement which says in part, despite claims that the Sheriff's Department is being defunded, the department's budget increased from $3.54 billion in 2020-2021 to $3.61 billion in 2021-2022. The sheriff says there are court orders and consent decrees, but being short-staffed, he might not be able to meet those requirements. He wants the federal government to get involved.
We're actually seeking that federal intervention on the custody side because there's 3 different consent decrees that pretty much mandate what we need to do in custody. The board is interfering with the federal mandates now.
The sheriff says even if things change today, getting new deputies on the street won't happen anytime soon. The hiring of a new deputy takes at least 10 months. Reporting from downtown Los Angeles, I'm Carlos Granda, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
Okay, so that's even more to mention. So keep in mind, right? Oh man, there was so much within those 2 minutes. So the first thing they said was, it's going to take 3 minutes, maybe 4. He said, we're just out of people, right? Luke chapter 22, verse 36. It says, then said he unto them, but now he that hath a purse, let him take it, and likewise his scrip. And he that hath no sword, let him sell his garment and buy one. The scriptures always talk about, you know, how the end is going to be, how it's going to get just worse and worse and worse, like a woman in travail, meaning giving a woman in labor. It's going to get worse as we get closer to Christ coming back, like a woman's contractions get worse as she gets closer to the child actually arriving, right? So you see that happening. You see the crime going up. They're saying, man, the crime is up. There's all these arrests. They're doing as much as they can, and it's still getting worse. And now, keep it real, that's past the point of no return. It would take a lot to be able to return. First and foremost, you have a whole bunch of people who used to be on the force that are no longer, right? They're allowing gangs. They're allowing, criminals, murderers, whatever, people who kill and get administrative leave. They're allowing all those things, and they still have 800 vacancies. As far as I know, it's COVID related, right? He's like, there's not going to be much they're going to be able to do pretty soon, and it's going to take 10 months. So you might as well say a year to be able to take a deputy from academy to street, and they need to do it 800 times. Even a class of 30. I mean, you'd have to have a huge influx of people who just want to be officers, and if you already have 800 vacancies, you're really not seeing that.
No, probably not.
You're not seeing that. Like, consistently, you're not seeing that. The vacancies are getting worse, and the chances are there are going to be a lot of overworked officers. There's going to be a lot. There's still, keep in mind, people who are going to retire, people who die of natural causes, people who are going to get COVID, people who are going to leave, people who are going to move. You have all those other factors to include on top of there's already so many vacancies. It's like, man, it's just on a slope. It's on a slope. So people are, and then even Lakewood, right? That's like one of the more expensive areas. Lakewood is really expensive to live in. And they're experiencing high crime, or they're experiencing now a taste of crime that usually doesn't flood over into those neighborhoods. And they're like, look, the response time is like 3 minutes. You know how long 3 minutes is when it really counts?
Right.
That's a long time. 3 minutes, they're saying it's getting closer to 4, and then eventually it's just going to keep getting longer and longer unless it's an absolute emergency. They're just not able to respond. We're really getting closer to these dystopian futures we see in all these movies. The Judge Dredd, one of the main things, he said there's only 1% of crime they could get to. He said you get to choose which 1%. That's literally where it's going, where it's like, man, there's more crime than they can ever actually can get to, more crime than what we can ever handle. Man, we're going to have to choose. You getting your catalytic converter stole? You safe in the house, right? Yeah.
Well,
there's nothing we can do. There's a shooting happening over here. We got to go this way.
Right.
And eventually it's going to become more and more and more and more. And it's going to be on, everywhere is just chaos. And there's no one to be able to handle it. And I highly doubt those officers, they're human. They have families they're going to want to protect. They're not going to patrol forever. Eventually they're going to make that decision, that executive decision to say, look, you can fire me, but what else can you do?
Right.
I need to get home. I need to get to my family, my wife, my kids. We're getting to that point. Getting to that point, man.
It's coming up.
while they're lacking officers.
This next story is proof that love always wins.
A dog was dropped.
Stop it. Disney employees and a former judge among 108 arrested in human trafficking sting in Florida. Authorities, matter of fact, we got a video. Ooh, it's 6 minutes. Ooh, and an ad.
When we
The video, we gonna read the article. It says authorities have arrested 108 people, including alleged child sexual predators and those seeking prostitutes, in a 6-day undercover human trafficking operation in Florida. Among those taken into custody were 4 Disney employees and a retired judge. So, sexual predators and seeking prostitutes. And at least 4 of them worked for Disney, so they're around kids all the time. The arrest of a human trafficker and 4 child predators alone makes this whole operation worthwhile. Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd said Wednesday, where there is prostitution, there is exploitation, disease, dysfunction, and broken families. During their operation, which they called Operation March Sadness 2, detectives found prostitutes who had posted online advertisement through various websites and social media platforms. To identify people who were seeking them out, they also identified adults who they thought were inappropriately communicating with children. It really seems like there's a big mix in this, right? They're kind of talking about the prostitution, but they're kind of talking about the pedophilia. And it's like, oh, well, we got these guys and these guys. Like, nah, how about the Disney employees? You know, like, the people seeking out prostitutes, I don't know, are we desensitized? Fig is, you know what I'm saying?
Right,
like, we see that all the time, and I'm not saying that's not still a crime, and I'm not saying that, but that happens.
It's some states where it's not a crime, actually. I think there's like 4. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Damn.
It's getting better, though. We're getting better. No, but so one of the things that I heard, I haven't confirmed this, but Disney is like the highest when it comes to child kidnapping.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which is crazy, right?
Not really. It's a fun world for kids.
Right.
Everyone brings their children. There's a massive crowd of people. It's pretty unregulated. There's not a whole lot of, like,
oversight.
Yeah, there's not a lot of oversight. There's more people there who are in costume, you know, to be public figures than I've ever seen security. I've ever seen managers or like just general public safety personnel. It's really not a whole lot. So
makes sense.
You know?
Yeah.
It says undercover detectives then communicated online with these suspects before meeting them at a location and arresting them. Members of anti-trafficking organizations also responded, speaking with prostitutes and offering them services and counseling. Officials identified 4 Disney employees as among those arrested. Okay, Xavier Jackson, 27, worked as a lifeguard at the Polynesian Resort for Walt Disney. Judge said Jackson sent inappropriate photos of himself and messages to an undercover detective who pretended to be a 14-year-old girl. And it's like, it's crazy because people are so concerned, and again, I'm not saying that it's not important, but people are like so concerned about the process as far as who can obtain a firearm, right? Who can get their license, who can do that, but then it's like, who can work around children?
Right.
What's the process? What's the vetting anything? It's just like if you get a certain credential or a certain piece of paper, no, what is that called? No psychological profile, no test, no real, I mean, maybe a background check with a job, but then that's it. It's like, then they're just around kids. This dude's and he's a lifeguard.
Right.
So everyone has their kids in the cutest little outfits and all that kind of stuff, and he's a predator just up there watching. Around kids all day. It says that 3 others who were allegedly attempting to solicit a prostitute were identified by Judd as Waxen Fiddle, 24, who worked at the Cosmic Restaurant at Walt Disney's World Tomorrowland. Okay, Shubham Malave, and Ralph Leese. Look at that. Oh, wow, look at this guy. Judge said Daniel Peters, 66, told detectives that he used to be a judge in the Cook County 4th Sub-Circuit Court and a special assistant for legal affairs in the Office of Professional Regulations at the Cook County Sheriff Office in Illinois. He was charged with soliciting a prostitute. Right? So the crazy part about it is, while all these things are going on the earth, it's just mind-blowing, I guess, sometimes to really think about the gravity of this world and this universe, how the Most High has things set up, how minor of a role that we might play in the grand scheme of things. And while we're all so concerned, I mean, of course, we're living, right? You feel pain, you feel fear, you feel anxiety. These things are reasonable, but then it's also mind-blowing to think just how quickly stuff could be over.
Right.
How many people are dying at random? You know, especially you ever watch like Live Leak or some of those videos that you scroll across every now and again on Facebook where someone just, bam, loses their life? Stuff happens all the time so quickly. They're like siren right there. They could be going to a call where someone's dead. It's crazy just how much death and destruction and things are going on in the earth, and how much this, Babylon and this beast has us so confined to small thinking, confined to limited experience and limited understanding, so caught in the grind that we don't even, so many of our people don't even care about their soul. So many of our people are just stuck in the loop. Eat, work, sleep, eat, work, sleep, eat, work, sleep. Turn up at the club, eat, work, sleep. Turn up at the club, eat, work, sleep. It's just constant, right? And I say that because of this next article. Comet, named the single most dangerous object to humanity, is 16 miles wide, and it could be heading towards Earth. We talk about predictive programming a lot.
Right.
Have you seen Don't Look Up?
No, I haven't
Netflix?
seen that yet.
Oh, you need to watch that ASAP.
All right, I'll check it out.
Without spoiling it for the people who are going to go watch it and want to see it fresh. It's basically about a comet. Let's just put it that way. It's about a comet that has potential to hit Earth. So it's very similar to what we're reading. And it just blows. That's just so noteworthy, because look at how many things are put in programming and then they come, they end up happening.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then there's like, they made a big movie, what was that, probably 6 months ago, if that, about a comet hitting Earth. And then now it's like, oh, well, by the way.
There might be one.
And Earth might end. Like, man. And while all that other stuff is our concern, while getting the bag, and our people are so consumed, you really need to watch that movie, because it was really about the intelligent and those who were like in tune with reality and facing facts versus those that just were blind to it. And it's crazy because you really see this massive separation that's been happening in the past, say, 10 years in every people. People who are really serious about their gods, so much talent. You know how the scriptures say the Most High shall pour out his spirit upon all flesh. It seems like the talent level has shot up exponentially.
Right.
The basketball players now would demolish whoever was playing in the 50s or the 80s.
Absolutely.
It's stuff, everything is different. The performance is different. Creativity is different. Skill is different. And all these things are just taking effect. And it really seems like we're getting closer and closer to the end. And even there's been a huge separation between the righteous and the wicked. Israel is waking up at an alarming rate. Right. It seems a new congregation popping up every other day. More people being added to the flock. And all praise to the Most High for all of it. It's all a part of, ultimately, his will. It's all a part of what he has already mapped out since the beginning. And as you see these things that are happening, so many people that are concerned with the grind, getting the bag, and all that kind of stuff may not even be aware that there's a comet that could potentially just end it all.
Oh, for sure.
It's like, man, it's just mind-blowing. Take us to the PowerPoint. Man, it says a comet twice the size of the one that killed the dinosaurs comes dangerously close to Earth every once in a while. It's nothing, man. It's every once in a while.
Every year, stargazers get out their telescopes with excitement to watch the Persides meteor showers in July and August. A comet swift Tuttle is to thank. The Persides, which appeared to us as beautiful shooting stars light up the night sky, is really an enormous stream of space debris that our Earth is periodically passing through.
Wow. You know, just like, oh wow, everyone comes out, they're all looking at it, it's so beautiful, and the whole time it's like, oh man, it's like somebody somewhere sweating.
Right.
Damn, we missed it. Like, man. Go ahead.
Comets are cosmic snowballs of frozen gases, rock, and dust, according to NASA. They're made of leftovers from the formation of the solar system. When a comet approaches the sun, it forms a tail made of gas and dust particles that faces away from the large star. So why is Swift-Tuttle believed to be dangerous? This comet is estimated to have a nucleus of about 16 miles across, or twice the size of Chicxulub impactor, which was the asteroid that killed off the dinosaurs. Swift-Tuttle also follows a very steep orbit around the sun, which contributes to its quick moving speed of about 36 miles per second. Yeah, that's moving.
Flying 36 miles per second, 16 miles wide, twice the size of the asteroid that they say killed the dinosaurs. Insane to think about. And think about how many people don't even know that this exists because they're too busy on the grind, too busy in the world, smoking your smoke, drinking your drink, twerking, turning up, going to the club, and it's like, dude, death is right around the corner.
Right, and you busy doing you. The fact that the comet is moving 4 times faster than, and I'm not, Chicxulub did when it impacted Earth, according to space.com. Because of these factors, the comet has been dubbed the most dangerous object known to humanity, according to Forbes.
So, but here's the crazy part, right? Because they said this a lot, and let me see. They always talk about how a comet could potentially be the end, and then they're like, oh, but you know, it's like this many million miles away, right? It says it last entered our solar system, our inner solar system, in December of 1992, and it is not expected to come back until 2026. So this is 3 years from now, right? No, 4. Well, about 3 and some change, right? But closer to 4. So it's scheduled in about 4 years. It's the single most dangerous thing that humanity knows of, at least right now, that scientists can say that they see and know. And who knows about it?
We got some time.
It says, when it will be within 14.2 million miles of Earth with an apparent magnitude of about 0.7, right? It says, while these figures don't worry scientists, the issue is that it's hard to 100% rule out impact. So if you read down, it says each orbit contains about a 0.000002% of probability of the comet hitting Earth, 6 times greater than your odds of winning the Powerball, according to Medium. So they try to make it seem like, oh, it's so, don't even worry about it. It's so impossible. It's like a, what is that? Tenths, hundreds, thousandths. Oh man, tenths, hundreds, thousandths, 10,000s, 100,000s, millions, 2 1,000,000ths of a chance. But every rotation, Earth orbit, each orbit, so what? Each day it grows by 2 millionths?
Something like that.
Something like that, right?
Yeah.
And given enough time, it could actually become a semi-substantial number, right?
Right.
At least according to what they're measuring. Keep in mind that they're like, but you can't rule it out 100%. Well, what could influence that? All kinds of stuff. For example, it says, let me see. There was a really important.
If it hit Earth.
Where do you see that? I wanted to, because I know there was a specific part. Oh, here it goes. It says every time the comet enters our inner solar system, there's a chance that one of the gas giant planets will influence its orbit, putting it on a trajectory towards Earth. So they just threw that in there, right? They're like, oh, but it's like 2 millionths of a chance. And what's the odds of that changing immediately and exponentially because it gets too close to a different planet?
Right.
They're saying currently it's not on track to do anything as far as Earth is concerned. But if it comes to, so you'd have to calculate all of the planet's trajectories, all of their gravitational pull, obviously it's beyond their understanding. The more that Esau don't have that much understanding. As much as they boast themselves to know how everything's happening, even the fact that they're saying this is going 4 times faster than the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs, how do you know when you weren't there, bro?
Right.
How are you going to sit up here and say, oh, come on, knock it off. Just knock it off. So they're saying, okay, it could potentially, you'd have to know, right? You'd have to know the Earth's orbit down to I'm talking about exact, the comet's speed, the other planet's orbit, speed, and gravitational pull, factor in where the comet will be in 4 years, where all of those planets will be in 4 years, assure that the gravitational pull is accurate, then try to simulate, because you still won't get a guaranteed answer because there's too many factors, try to simulate where it's going to go. And they're telling people not to worry based off of all of that probability and all of that guessing. They're saying, no, just don't even worry about it. It's like 2 millionths of a percent. You have to, and it's like, dude, that could be it. 2026. And it could come sooner. So it's just, like I said, it's just mind-blowing, all the things that we're just not aware of, we just don't think of, or we don't even consider because we just get so consumed within the day-to-day and, how everything is set up. Everything moves so fast. Everything is moving fast. Your day is flying by. Everyone's in a rush. People are, just rushing to nowhere fast, and then ultimately you miss the important things. So it says South Africa's president, so let's get back to Earth for a minute, right? South Africa's president blames NATO for Russia's invasion of Ukraine. War could have been avoided. So obviously, as we've been seeing all these things happen and all these things that are taking place within the world, we understand that these things are prophesied, right? Just about every time we do current events, we're going to Matthew 24.
Right.
About the end. That says something. It says a lot. Matthew 24 and verse 6. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled. For all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. So Christ already told us this ain't even the end. It's going to happen. They have to happen, but it's still not the end yet, right? For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. Nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom, and all the other things we read. Those things are actively happening as well, but those are going to be mentioned later on. Those are going to be mentioned later in these sources.
So this is South Africa's president blames NATO for Russia's invasion of Ukraine, saying war could have been avoided. Let's see. Speaking in Parliament Thursday, Ramaphosa said the war, now entering its 4th week, could have been avoided if NATO hadn't expanded eastward. This is what, mainstream media doesn't talk about. The war could have been avoided if NATO had heeded warnings from amongst its own leaders and officials over the years that its eastward expansion would lead to greater, not less, instability in the region. He was careful to clarify that South Africa cannot condone the use of force and violation of international law. The South African president refused to condemn Russia, saying he had been approached to mediate in the Russia-Ukraine conflict, but did not specify who approached him. There are those who are insisting that we should take a very adversarial stance against Russia. That approach we are going to take, the approach we are going to take instead, is insisting there should be dialogue, he said, adding, screaming and shouting is not going to bring an end to this conflict.
It's crazy because and NATO, right? So that's like pretty much the order and leaders of the Western world, right? They're constantly expanding eastward, trying to bring democracy and America's ideals into all these other countries. So that's why you had like such a conflict in the Middle East, because they're very conservative, right? they have customs and beliefs very similar to the Bible. Women should be submissive to the husband. The husband is the head of the household. They practice polygyny. They don't eat pork. There's a number of parallels. And America comes over and says, man, you know, try democracy. Let's open up business. You guys have a lot of gold. You have a lot of oil. We could be great business partners. But when you say yes to America, when you get in bed with America, it gets messy. It's not just you get the business. You also get the ideals. You also get the internet. You get the
morals.
Oh yeah, you get all of the internet. You get the porn, the piracy, the criminality, the dark web. You get all of those things to be allowed in the country because you're in bed with America, and this is how America gets down. You have to get down with the get down. So a lot of countries, especially on the other side of the world, oftentimes reject America's offers or reject, being so involved with NATO or falling under NATO. Ukraine was one of the ones that says yes, and Russia was like, nah, that shouldn't happen, because that was all one country under the Iron Curtain at one point, right?
Right.
So they pretty much are trying to defend the ideals that they've come to know and understand, while Ukraine is more so adopting the Western concept, the Western ideals. Also, we're going to speed it up a little bit for the sake of time. You know what? We're gonna skip this one. That's not like super big. So this one, I just went to. There's like just a specific point, because Putin and Zelensky, which is the president of Russia and the president of Ukraine, actually had a call where he pretty much discussed his terms as far as what will end this war. Right? It says Ukraine would have to undergo a disarmament process to ensure it wasn't a threat to Russia. There would have to be protection for the Russian language in Ukraine, and there is something called denazification. So he's pretty much, you can't be a threat, protection for the Russian language. So look how they're thinking. They're like, look, we have to preserve our way of life. We have to preserve our culture. We have to preserve these things. America's moving in, English is moving in, these different languages, these different customs, these different people. He's saying, make sure that we survive. So when you look at that, it's like,
I mean, even more than survive, what he's saying is, we can't allow for Western society to take over our morals, our beliefs, our understandings, what we've held dear to, for all of our history.
And it's crazy because it says this is deeply, so the denazification, right? It says this is deeply offensive to Mr. Zelensky, who is himself Jewish, and some of whose relatives died in the Holocaust. So as much as, the scriptures talk about the earth being given into the hand of the wicked, it talks about, Esau owning, and we always talk about how these Jewish families are in positions of power. So many people talk about Hollywood, they run in countries.
Right.
That's the president of the Ukraine. He's adopted the American ideal. He's in league. Man, look at all the connections and parallels that are right there. It says, perhaps it will be enough for Ukraine to condemn all forms of neo-Nazism and promise to clamp down on them. So that was some of his demands. I believe actually that was all of it. It was pretty much the disarmament, the protection of the Russian language, and the denazification. All right. Superbug-infected chicken is being sold all over the U.S. A certain amount of bacteria is allowed under USDA rules, but companies routinely exceed that and don't have to recall their products. So that's another thing, right? And in this article, matter of fact, I want to get to it first. Joanne Canda Alvarez found her 9-year-old son splayed out on his bedroom floor, unable to move and foaming at the mouth. The day before, Javen had been playing golf with his family. Now he was completely paralyzed by the sudden onset of a rare autoimmune disease that doctors linked to Campylobacter, a bacteria mainly found in poultry products. So the day before, he's perfectly fine. They go and play golf. He's a normal kid. They're having fun. And the next day, she finds him laid out on the floor foaming at the mouth because he ate something that was contaminated with this bacteria. That's another, man, there's so many different ways to go, so many different ways the Most High can get you, the Most High can. it's just all these different things that can happen, and America still has us so consumed in the day to day, so consumed in just, and I like, man, I'm not saying these things aren't important. Scriptures give you balance, saying money answereth all things, store up. You know, it talks about you know, financial responsibility and financial social economics. It talks about that, and it's just, like I said, it just always blows my mind, like how quickly things can end.
The point that a lot of people miss is, you know, we're building a nation. So, you know, our goal should be, you know, building ourselves up as a nation rather than, you know, building ourselves up as individuals. And it's at that individual goal that you have where you're just trying to, you know, do best for you and your family. That's what's keeping you in this captivity. That's what's keeping you, you know, on that grind where you're so consumed with, you know, getting ahead for yourself that you're not thinking about your nation. You're not thinking about your people, and you're not thinking about, you know, doing what the Most High has asked.
And I will say there's obviously a certain level of importance with dealing with the house, but it shouldn't be with vanity. You know, It shouldn't be, you know, Jace is just trying to. Obviously, like you said, the works in the nation should be the priority first, and then all those things. Is the Most High take care of the rest of those things. Look at our forefathers; they were righteous men and women who obeyed the laws of the Most High, and the Most High gave them whatever. It was beyond what they had. You know, They had to have servants just to manage their estate. They were zealous about the law first. Then all those things came along. It says, nearly 4 years after falling sick, Jabin still struggles to control his hands and his right foot, a result of lasting nerve damage.
Look at that.
All these years later, he still has issues from eating contaminated poultry. It says nobody has an answer to if he'll ever recover fully, if his body will ever be the same. So it's like, man, you know, just that kind of stuff. Like, it was you know, no warning. All right, we talked about the earthquakes in diverse places. 4 dead after a 7.4 magnitude earthquake hits off Japan's Fukushima prefecture. Look at that. 7.4 magnitude earthquake hit eastern Japan late Wednesday night, killing at least 4 people. Man.
We read? No, good.
It says,
no, you're good.
It says a tsunami advisory was issued after Wednesday's quake for the coastal prefectures of Fukushima and Miyagi, but was lifted on Thursday morning. And Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida later said no abnormalities have been detected at any of the country's nuclear plants. So don't the scriptures talk about nation against nation? It says, for nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. Man. Matter of fact, while we're on that, let me bring this up while we're on this. All right. Biden warns food shortages are going to be real across the globe because of Putin invading the world's breadbasket, Ukraine. So everything that they can, they're trying to put out as much media as possible to say how horrible this is. And this is literally, you know, they say all warfare, in the art of all warfare is based on deception. Right? So everything, now there's all these issues. And here's the thing, on the other side of the world, they've already implemented this. I think Christians were the first to go. They were the first to be like, Ukraine. Dude, I'm not talking about just average Christians. I'm talking about black folks, Jakes, the children of Israel. We over here getting persecuted, put to death, killed.
Crying
all
out.
These, man, like, all this stuff that's happening to us, and then they're like, feel sorry for them now. Everybody got the I Stand With Ukraine filter on their pictures and stuff. Like, man, what happened to all that for your people? Because when has our plight ended?
It hasn't.
But that now they're saying, you know, the gas prices shot up. They're like, oh, well, that has to do with you. But then you see articles saying that Russia was like, America wasn't even a real buyer of Russia's oil. So it's like, well, where's the gas prices coming up? Putin.
Right.
I mean, yeah, you know, they be like, hey,
It
like
don't even make sense.
Yeah, they just
Gas prices been going up way before this thing kicked off.
They sprinkling that on there because they know you're pissed off when you go to the pump. Like, man, what's up with all? Man, why is this happening? Putin. That's literally a torture tactic when they use to make sleeper cells. They constantly put people in pain, put them in a dissociative state, right? And then they start blaming all their issues on it, whatever it is that they want that person to go after.
Exactly.
So it's like, you know, you constantly get hit with things. You're constantly in a state of, we're always in a state of fear, always in a state of panic, always in a state of stress and anxiety. You have, you know, constant news articles, everything saying why you should be so afraid. It's all over the place all the time. You have apps like Citizen, which are very useful, but constantly showing you all the crime. You have, that's how we're always held in a state of fear. And then it's always stress because the wages aren't going up, but everything's hyperinflated. There are countries that have successfully have average salaries for, you know, a living wage, and especially not in California. I don't really know anywhere that you could live comfortably or really just sustain yourself off of minimum wage.
There isn't.
It don't really exist. You have to be able to find something else, either more valuable work or multiple sources of income. So we're always stressed. We're always put in some type of fear. And then while you're stressed, while you're in fear, while you're having all these problems, they keep saying, Putin,
right.
Putin.
Boogeyman.
Yeah, that's basically what it is. But for a lot of people, they're really starting to develop a genuine hatred for a man waging war on the other side of the world against a country that used to be a part of his country's province. And they're saying, well, it's all his fault.
Right.
That's who you should be upset with. That's who you need to be angry at. Get mad at Putin.
Meanwhile, we had all of these problems before Russia invaded Ukraine.
Don't say that. Said President Joe Biden said there will be food shortages around the globe because of Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine. It's going to be real, he said, because both Russia and Ukraine have been the breadbasket of Europe in terms of wheat, for example.
He was like, whew. Glad we got something else to blame it on.
Right. The United States, through the Feed the Future initiative, will provide over $11 billion over the next 5 years to address food security threat. Where's that in the hood? Right. They got $11 billion to be able to go make sure that no one's going hungry. You know how much that would help some of our people to just know that they won't have to stress out about their next meal? You might mess around and be like, man, if I don't have to figure out what or where I'm going to eat, I might be able to actually figure something out and get out of this predicament.
Right.
Imagine you spending a little bit of money that you got on food, and someone guarantees you that whatever you get, you'll always have food. There won't be any food insecurity. You're like, man, you know what?
You can focus on some other things.
Right. Like I can. Oh, you know what? Maybe I should try to do this. Maybe I should try to do that. Because some people are not just. I don't know. That would do so much. I can only imagine how much of an effect on how many people that would have an effect. But they won't do it for us.
No. But
let some Edomites in Europe get in trouble. Let them have problems. Let them be going through a civil war, mind you.
Right.
And now there's, oh, well, man, we got to find something. Give them $11 billion. Russia and Ukraine jointly account for around 25% of world wheat exports and 16% of world corn exports, leading to surging prices for the grain. So anything wheat, flour, bread, I mean, just all the pastas, all those different things, plus corn. And corn is in so many different things as a byproduct. President Joe Biden on Thursday said there will be food shortages around the globe because of Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine. There it is again. You make sure you hate him before you go to bed. It's going to be real, he said, because both Russia and Ukraine have been the breadbasket. So it's like, man, everything that they're doing, everything that they're saying, they're making sure. There he is. Make sure that you blame Ukraine before you go to bed. Curse Ukraine in your prayers. I mean, Russia in your prayers. Right. They want you to hate everything Russia. All the while, this is the real beast. I mean, man. Then while all that's happening.
Oh, wow.
Then while all that's going on.
I didn't see this coming at all.
You know we gotta talk about some COVID. Some of that vid. Will we need a fourth vaccine dose? They already talked about 2, right? You had to get one or both, and there was so much of a threat on jobs to be able to have both. Now imagine for the people who were saying, okay, I might be able to get one,
Right.
maybe I'll. And then it's like, all right, now you need 2. All right, now you need 3, and now they're like 4.
Right.
Like, will you guys go for it a 4th time? The chief executive officer of Pfizer says a 4th dose of COVID-19 vaccine will be needed to head off another wave of new cases.
So this is the head of the pharmaceutical company that's going to provide the vaccine. Okay, that makes sense.
He's a marketing genius because he creates the problem and he's got the solution.
Right.
What you guys, that's like, man, what you need. You know what you need? That'd be like if I gave you a mic with dead batteries and I'm like, need batteries?
Right.
This is what you need, man. Yeah, I'm trying to tell you.
Trying to help you get your message out.
Right. Trying to tell you. It said Pfizer has asked federal regulators to authorize a second COVID-19 booster shot for people 65 and older. So they're asking the government. They're saying, can you authorize this? Because if the government authorizes it, then you have to do it, right? They're going to issue a mandate saying, you can't do this, you can't do that, just like how it's always been. You can't go into certain places without the vaccine card. Certain jobs will require it, at least for a time. But think about how many things that disqualifies you for, because all they got to do is keep going to the government. They're generating money for the government, likely making charitable donations or whatever the case may be, and they're asking the government, can you make this mandatory, and we'll produce it.
Right. We have no problem producing it. That's not the problem.
You know what I'm about to get. Psalms.
Wait, but it's not just Pfizer. Moderna has asked the FDA for authorization for a second booster shot for people over the age of 18. So it's not just Pfizer, but also Moderna.
Now it all makes sense. Like, why does this keep happening? What's going on with this? Where are they getting this from? The companies who are creating these things are going to the government and saying, hey, make this mandatory. If you make it mandatory, whatever we produce, it has to be used.
Right.
Like, they're guaranteeing that they're going to
Income.
never take a loss. Yeah, they're guaranteeing income.
Right.
It says Psalms 94:20, shall the throne of iniquity have fellowship with thee, which frameth mischief by a law.
Right.
They're giving, let me be careful with this one. Boy, use your wisdom. Right. The trials weren't very long. They have all these byproducts. You've had jabs that were pulled because of their side effects and potentially lethal reactions within the body. And the actual producers of the shots are going to the government and saying, look, make this mandatory, we'll make it. All you got to do is put that in writing, and everyone has to come to us and get this shot. That's all you got to do. They're framing the mischief by law. And mind you, went through how long of a trial period? AIDS been around since how long? They're just now trying to develop a vaccine or a potential cure. All these different diseases that haven't been eradicated, but we're supposed to expect that they've got this one 100% in
8 months.
Right. Hey. Says officials at Moderna, actually you just read that. Pfizer officials said research from Israel indicates that COVID-19 infections were 2 times lower for people who received a second booster. In addition, rates of severe illness were 4 times lower for people with a second booster. The announcement comes just days after the CEO of Pfizer says it appears a 4th dose of the COVID-19 vaccine will be necessary.
Appears how?
It appears. Hey, man. I mean, come on. They're not going. It's all a big game.
When I looked in my money mirror.
Right. I think y'all need some more. He said 3rd doses have been effective so far in preventing serious COVID-19 illnesses, but immunity could wane in the face of new variants. So, like, man, every time a new variant. So just look at the cycle, right? The government issues a mandate.
Right.
these companies cash out a new variant.
Right.
The government issues a mandate.
That's enough.
So, you know what I'm saying? So all they have to do is keep saying that there is a new variant, something else to fear. You need more protection.
Right.
And you're gonna want to figure it out. You're gonna say, okay, oh my gosh, there's something that's more dangerous out there.
Well, I already did this. So
Right.
I got to keep doing this, right?
And what a coincidence. There's another variant.
Definitely didn't see that coming.
Right. That was grand reveal. Omicron BA.2 subvariant will soon dominate the U.S., but Fauci doesn't expect another surge.
Sure.
Omicron's more contagious. It's even more contagious. And see here, and this is just one thing that I've always kind of been curious about, right? They said COVID, the original, I'm talking about 2019 OG COVID.
The OG.
Yeah, the OG COVID, I think infected, what was it, 3 people to the third power? Or it was, how was it spread? It pretty much said that 3 people would transmit it to 3. It always went in threes,
Right.
and pretty much within like 5 or, hold on, let me look. So you take 3 people. They each are going to spread to 3. That's pretty much 9. That's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So if you have 3 people who are originally infected and they each infect 3 people, and that continues at that rate of transmission, by 8 times you have about 17,000 people. By 9 you have 104,000, right? And that's just if 3 people spread it to 3 people 9 times. 104,000 people. And then, if those 104,000 spread it, you see how it's just keep getting worse. Then it goes to 300,000. Then it goes to, what would that be, 900,000. Then it goes over 1 million. The number is just going to keep getting bigger and bigger. So when you talk about transmissibleness of that magnitude, you're talking about a lot, like pretty much everyone in the world at some point is going to get infected. That's not the case.
Nope.
So if that hasn't been the case, but they're saying that the next one was even more contagious. They don't seem to be getting more severe in actual symptoms,
Right.
just contagious. But at that point, when you're dealing with numbers of this magnitude, at what point do you stop being able to measure what was OG, what's what is it? Delta, Omicron, Beta? No, Gamma? Was there a Beta?
I don't think there was a Beta or a Gamma.
There was no, there was for sure a Gamma.
Oh,
There's a COVID Gamma out there.
Okay.
I want to say there's a Beta.
I don't recall.
A Delta, that's what it is.
Yeah,
Delta,
the Delta,
there it is.
Delta.
I knew it was there. So what is that? Man, it's more than, it's a lot. It says BA.2 has been steadily growing as a proportion of the COVID variants circulating in the U.S. since February 5th, when it represented about 1% of the genetically sequenced virus samples. BA.2 probably already accounts for 50% of new infections. Probably. It's probably. They estimate its potential. It's possible. Probably. It's like, dude, like it's a game. Because many people are taking tests at home that aren't picked up in the official data, according to Ali Makdad, an epidemiologist at the Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation at the University of Washington. Imagine that. But now they're saying, as the dominant variant shows, data from Walgreens, which conducts testing at its pharmacies nationwide, shows BA.2 is the dominant variant at 51% of all positive COVID cases for the week ending March 19th.
So just barely over half of all the cases are this new.
But they say
variant.
that, haven't they said that about every single one that's come up? It was already half by the time, you know?
It has to. There's a formula to it, I'm sure.
We almost done.
As long as we have these pharmaceutical companies that can keep putting out vaccines, I think we'll be all right.
It's always gonna be another. Man.
Because the variants seem to they're not going to stop. They're going to keep coming.
Oh yeah, 'cause they've been coming.
Right.
It says a man who got the first pig heart transplant has died after 2 months. The first person to receive a heart transplant from a pig has died 2 months after the groundbreaking experiment the Maryland hospital that performed the surgery announced Wednesday. David Bennett, 57, died Tuesday at the University of Maryland Medical Center. Doctors didn't give an exact cause of death, saying only that his condition had begun deteriorating several days earlier. Could it have been the pig heart?
No, definitely not the pig heart.
I mean, we are very grateful for every innovative moment, every crazy dream, every sleepless night. So obviously they're big upping it as this being some amazing feat of science. And it's like, dude, Esau is literally trying to play God. They've been doing this for so long. They want to be in the position of the Most High to say, you know what, this man is guaranteed going to die. I'm going to save him. And it's like, dude, hey, Most High at least gave you the knowledge and capability to be able to give 2 months.
God.
Hey, yeah, you did that, but ultimately the Most High's judgment stands. Scientists modified the animal to combat organ rejection. So prior attempts at such transplants or xenotransplantation have failed largely because patients' bodies rapidly rejected the animal organ because it doesn't belong there. This time, the Maryland surgeons used a heart from a gene-edited pig. Scientists had modified the animal to remove pig genes that trigger the hyperfast rejection and add human genes to help the body accept the organ. So this was already a spliced mad scientist job before this man even needed the actual heart. They had already genetically spliced the pig. It says, at first, the pig heart was functioning, and the Maryland hospital issued periodic updates that Bennett seemed to be slowly recovering. Last month, the hospital released video of him watching the Super Bowl from his hospital bed while working with his physical therapist. Bennett survived significantly longer with a gene-edited pig heart from one of the last milestones in xenotransplantation when baby Faye, a dying California infant, lived 21 days with a baboon's heart in 1984. Oh, wow.
So they've been doing this.
Yeah. Wow. That's a wow. As much as these things, man, nothing new under the sun. They've been doing this for as long as they can make doing it.
God.
This is another one of those love of many waxing cold. Green Bay woman accused of killing and dismembering a man. A 24-year-old Green Bay woman is accused of dismembering a man after killing him. Taylor has been charged with first-degree intentional homicide, mutilating a corpse, and third-degree sexual assault.
Oof.
It says the criminal complaint said the victim's mother found the head.
Oh, wow.
She, hacked him up. Officers, let me see, it says, according to court documents filed Tuesday, oh, man.
Shaw Business?
Shaw Business was identified as someone who was last seen with the victim. When police arrived at Shaw Business's apartment, the criminal complaint said Shaw Business, man, they really put it in there. They put it in there as much as they could. Came out of the apartment and had what appeared to be dried blood on her clothes and her hands. Officers inspected the van Shaw Business had been using, and the complaint says additional human body parts, including legs, were found in a box in the passenger seat.
Interesting.
When interviewed by police, the criminal complaint said Shaw Business told officers she and the victim were smoking meth and then engaged in a sex act that involved strangulation. According to the complaint, Shaw Business said she continued to strangle the victim until he was dead. Afterward, statements in the criminal complaint indicate that Shaw Business assaulted the victim's body. Wow.
Wow. Oh, no, keep reading.
According to the criminal complaint, a detective clarified with Shaw Business that she was in the basement with the victim all during the day, Tuesday and into Tuesday night and into Wednesday morning, and then dismembered the victim's body. Yeah, so she took some hours, she took a long time. Shaw Business.
She took her time.
Man. Oh, man. Shaw Business made her initial appearance in court Tuesday afternoon. She fears a potential sentence of life in prison if convicted. Wow. Yeah, well, man, you should cut that man up. So look at this, right? This is
Oh, wow.
yeah, right. So everyone knows, you've seen Toy Story, you know Buzz Lightyear. He's getting his own movie. So same-sex kiss restored to Pixar's Lightyear after employees slammed Disney. So it was, keyword, restored. Means they took it out at one point, and people started, and mind you, Disney, it had employees that were, the other ones, did you notice, they were looking for prostitutes. The other, in the article that we read earlier, the 108 people, they mentioned 4 of them. I think, 3 of them work for Disney?
Yeah.
But one of them, which was the lifeguard, was actually, he was looking for children, right? He's at the Disney, he's working for Disney and a predator, a child predator. So now, well, how far does it go? How alone was he really? Because employees of Disney are slamming Disney, saying, put back this same-sex scene that was taken out of the movie. A same-sex kiss scene was reportedly restored to Pixar's upcoming feature film Lightyear. The movie's already done, but they went back and changed it. A reversal that came days after top Disney brass faced intense criticism from some of the studio's employees over their response to Florida's Don't Say Gay bill. The abrupt change followed the circulation of a March 9th letter signed by LGBTQIA+. Oh, man. That got a lot longer since the last time that I've seen it.
For real.
Employees of Pixar and their allies who accused Disney executives of censoring moments of overtly gay affection in their movies. So you literally can't stop it. You cannot stop it. They're like, look, people, and it's not just people. We're not talking about a rated R movie that like adults are going to see.
Right.
We're not talking about, I mean, which is,
This is
who's gonna be there.
historically a children's
This is very
franchise.
much. It's made by Disney. It's an animated movie of a toy, but it's like his real. It's everything child friendly.
Right.
And they're saying, well, and mind you, keep in mind, they don't need to be exposed to any kind of sexuality. Whether even if it's heterosexual, they don't need to be exposed to all of that when they're seeing movies. Still don't need to be overly sexual. They're kids.
Right.
But they're saying not only is they're going to be exposed to overly sexual, but it's also going to be homosexual. And they took it out saying, this might be too much. They're like, no, put it back in. So they did. Set for release this summer, the upcoming Toy Story spinoff features a relationship between 2 female characters, one of whom is voiced by actress Uzo Aduba. The kiss between the 2 characters was initially cut from the film, only to be re-added last week after Pixar employees accused Disney of censorship. So, I mean, when those are the people that are making things for your children, come on, like, we're safe.
It's interesting to me that it was like, why was it cut? Right? Because you didn't have to put it in there in the first place.
Right. They could have I mean, that's
So if you put it in there, it's because you wanted it in there, right? Mm-hmm. And then what does cutting it do? Oh, it draws attention to the fact that you cut this scene out, right?
Right.
And now we have a whole, 3 or 4 day, I don't know how long the protest went on, but you had, a multi-day protest, against your actions for removing this scene from this Disney movie. Well played.
Right. Very well played. Because, like, as you said that, it makes me think script. Someone had to read the script, approve the script. And this is not a movie that's being acted out by actual people. They had to animate that.
Right.
That takes hundreds of hours to animate, an animated movie, especially when it's high quality like that. So someone took they took hours into animating that scene.
It was meaningful.
Right. Any time during that, they could have stopped it, and instead they were like, nah, this is what we're really going to do. So if you, to be warned, we talking about the kids. Look at this. Ooh. Okay, it's coming in 10 seconds, right? So I don't know if you saw this. It was a teacher. He takes, because wearing a hoodie is still like the worst crime that you can commit going to a public school. They say that he takes a student out of class and just slaps him. I had a feeling that wasn't going to be the right video. Oh, They're giving us another one. Okay, actually, this is it's already loaded. It went past the page. Basically, if you haven't seen it, it's there was a teacher. I can't remember the exact state, but there was a teacher who pretty much he took a student out of class for wearing a hoodie. He pushed them against the wall pretty hard. Mind you, this is a grown man, and it's not like he's like 50s. Like he's an older grown man, but he still got some strength.
Right.
Pushes this probably 12, 14-year-old kid against the wall, and then like just slaps him because he's wearing a hoodie, and he was allowed an early retirement. They didn't take everything away from him. Like, man, and it's crazy because these are the ones who are working with the kids, working with the future,
Right.
working with those that are vulnerable, developing, need more care, more attention, more of these things to be able to build healthy minds and healthy relationships moving forward, offering them stability. All of the mentors and those that are supposed to be looking out in the world are ultimately part of the destruction. They're the ones a part of making things worse.
It's funny how that works.
Man. So this is going to be the last one. Fresno police sergeant charged with stealing drugs, using them, crashing a patrol car while driving under the influence. So we talking about cops all over Cali, man. They are making the news just back to back. A Fresno police sergeant is charged with stealing meth from a suspect. So he didn't even give it out of the evidence locker. He found somebody that was out there, had drugs on him. He's like, man, give me that. I'm not going to rush you. You just get out of here. I'm taking the drugs. I'm let you off. Then he's like, man, this is some good quality. This is that good quality stuff.
Hey, you think that was his first time?
Oh, no, absolutely not. That's the crazy part. He's stealing drugs. He's probably like, score.
That probably wasn't even his first time getting caught.
Ooh, man. Man.
Hey, it's gang.
Right. Right. That's wild. Using the drugs and then driving the patrol car under the influence. Donnie Dental is a 19-year veteran of the
Sheesh.
Fresno Police Department, now charged with robbery, illegal possession of meth, and DUI.
It took him 19 years to get up to 3 felonies.
Right. No, I definitely think he's done that before. There's
For
no
sure.
way. 19 years he's been on the force, and
He's
it's
been building up very
Yeah,
slowly,
right, 'cause
quietly.
That's not like one of them dip a toe kind of
No.
drugs either. That's like
No.
you do like you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
He's out there.
you're a drug doer.
Right. He's out there like just taking it off of people and then going and doing it himself.
Right.
So
He's out there looking for people to take it off of.
right.
To go, you know. Sheesh.
And who knows how long, but and who knows how many other instances. That's a hell of a point. Like, how many other times has this happened, but they just let him off because, like, man, you've been on the force for 12 years,
Right.
15 years, 16 years.
Exactly.
You don't want to throw it all away now. Get your stuff together. They give him a chance, and then he wrecks a patrol car. It's like, okay, we can't hide this one. You're going to make the news, Donnie.
Right.
What is it? St. Dental's last day on duty at the Fresno Police Department ended with a wild ride near Herndon Avenue and Highway 99 in northwest Fresno. A 911 came into our dispatch center and said that a police car was driving erratically in the parking lot, said Fresno Police Chief Paco Balderrama. The police car was described as running over curbs and striking a tree, disabling the police car. So he was going fast enough to hit a tree hard enough to where the car was inoperable. Officers thought he had a heart attack, but then realized his last call involved drugs.
Uh-oh.
They suspected fentanyl exposure and gave him Narcan, the opiate overdose rescue drug. Chief Paco Balderrama says once officers knew Dental would survive, they started investigating. Dental had closed that last call as unfolded.
Unfounded.
Unfounded. I was wondering what I read wrong. 'Cause
Right.
I said, man, that show didn't make sense. But he had a bundle of drugs in his patrol car. Testing found the bundle contained methamphetamine and fentanyl.
Oh, double dip.
Man, Dental admitted taking them from a woman. She told investigators he offered her a deal. give him the drugs, and he'd let it go. I knew
Classic.
it. I
Classic.
knew that was going to be the
Right.
way. Because that's the only way. It's like, man,
That's the move.
I get to get off. Like, yeah, dude, man, get out of here before I change my mind.
Right.
Like, and you probably ran off. Was like, oh my God, I got to go smoke drugs.
No paperwork.
He's like, all right, just get it. I'm doing you a favor the whole time. He getting high out of his mind in the parking lot. Then goes Judge Dredd swerving over the what do you call that? He's going over the curbs and all the stuff in the parking lot. Everybody's trying to figure out what he's doing. He hits a tree and then they finally open it and he's hopped up.
Right.
It says Dental got the drugs. He told investigators he planned to get rid of them after using a porta potty on a bridge under construction at Riverside and Veterans Boulevard. But he drifted out of consciousness and then the crash. Blood testing at the hospital showed he had meth and fentanyl in his system. A toxicologist told police Dental had ingested way too much fentanyl for it to be anything other than intentional use. So he's like, look, man, I got the drugs. I went to the bathroom. I don't know how them drugs got in my system.
Right.
You have to believe me. And he's like, look, dude, you have a huge amount of this stuff in your system. There's no way that it happened on accident. You had to have done something intentionally. It says Dental was promoted to sergeant in 2018. I anticipate the Sergeant Dental will hopefully be turning himself in, and he will be booked into the Fresno County Jail. Sheesh. I feel like that was like the bulk of it.
Oh. His wife retired from Fresno County Sheriff's Office. In an arrest warrant Action News uncovered, investigators say she told another sergeant she found meth in her husband's clothes a year earlier.
That was a great point. I'm glad you brought that out. A year prior to this, his wife is she's there at the station, cleans up his clothes, and was like, "What is this? Find some meth, right?" Tells the department, "Hey, you guys need to help Donald. He's addicted. He's got a real problem. How is he getting it? Is he going in the evidence locker? What is he doing?" So they know that he has that, and it's a simple confirming it as a drug test.
Right.
They're the police. Surely you have one on hand. He goes into the bathroom, pees in the cup, and they're like, "Whoa, you got meth in your system. You're off the force."
Right.
They already knew about it. It was like, "Look, you're already retired.
Right.
You go home and live out your life. When he retires, don't even worry about it." So they've already known about this for at least a year. And that's just when she found it. And usually, by the time you start getting caught, is when you're being sloppy.
Right.
When he first started off, he was, he probably worked his way up into forgetting that it was in his clothes.
For sure.
And how much meth did he have that he was more than likely already had done some? Because he did some on duty. He's doing it. He more than likely already did some while he was at work because he found somebody that had some, and then brings it home and just completely forgets it's in his pocket. How much do you have to just leave that?
I know, like, when you're doing something that you know you're not supposed to be doing, or you got something that you know you're not supposed to have, like, that's all you're thinking about.
Right. And he's leaving it. He's just leaving it
Right.
places, like leaving it in his pocket, leaving it. And she's like, "Look, Donnie needs help." She goes to the forest. They're like, "Yo, go home." Go home. Don't say nothing to nobody. Donnie's going to be all right. He's been on the force for 19 years, and he's just out there hunting for meth.
Gang, man.
My goodness. So, Israel, I hope this was edifying as well as informative. Again, you don't want to, the scriptures say not to be ignorant of anything. Don't let this be the extent of research that you do or the extent of knowledge that you make yourself abreast of. Be sure to tune in with our other classes that we have periodically through the week. This one's more so geared towards, I guess you could say, news, ultimately. It's current events. Majority of the lessons are more spiritually based, more based on salvation, character, the scriptures. This is just kind of the little addition to have that balance, to not have anyone ignorant. Do you have anything you want to bring out?
No.
So we appreciate you for tuning in with us, Israel. Continue to tap in with us, like, share, and subscribe to videos. And with that, we say shalom.
Shalom.